When you start moving right, they call you weirdo. Turn your life around for good and you start losing kinfolk. But don't make you fam, your own brother get you killed. So focus on what matters while you can't let that sin go. Haters could be haters in disguise as your friends though. Difference of opinions got them switching like the seasons. Never seen it coming, politics the only reason. Gotta pick a side, red or blue, what you bleeding. They say hands up, so they shoot you while you leaning. Knee inside your neck, you a threat because you breathing. We want some respect, all we get is bloody seasons. When we ask them why they claiming human is the reason.
Yo, what's going on, YouTube? We are back. We've been away for a little minute. We missed you guys, man. We had to take some time off, to pay some bills, spend some time with some family members, kiss some babies. But we back, man, and I'm excited. As you guys can see, we got a new little setup here. You know what I'm saying? If you like the new setup, why don't you drop a comment below saying whether you like this one or if you like the old one. Which one do you prefer? I'm interested to know. But I like this one. Adam did a lot of work on making this happen. And so, man, this is how we're gonna be rocking for at least the next for a little while. But man, I'm so happy to be back and to have you guys with me. It's been a fun few weeks off, and but today, man, we got a special episode. Moving forward, man, really quick before we dive into the show, things are going to be looking a little bit different moving on. We're going to now have like reoccurring guests on the channel. Ray is growing in his profession and he is doing a whole bunch of major things. And so he's not always going to be with me, but he will be, jumping in on some topics that he's really passionate about and wants to talk about. So this is kind of going to be just kind of a free form, open while I have different guests come through every week. And so, man, we got some discussions with some police officers coming up, some teachers coming up. We got some mighty men of God. They're gonna be on the channel. Some of you already know who they are. They've been here before. And so I'm just looking forward to having fun and just kicking it and having really, really good conversations and discussions. And so stay tuned for that. If you haven't already, man, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Man, this year I'm just looking to grow the channel in the best way that I can. And so I appreciate all of you guys that was rocking with me in 2024. And man, we're looking to do some big things here in 2025. And so now that we got all that out the way, man, we want to dive right into this episode. I got my main man, Mr. Adam Hansen, super podcast producer. He like big bro in the podcast. So like I submit to like him when it comes to all this setup and all this equipment stuff. He knows what to do. But this is my guy, man. And so today he got some questions for me.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be diving into some questions, man. I hope these gonna be some fun, enlightening questions. Some questions that some people never asked me before. But so I'm not gonna be hosting this show. Adam is gonna be hosting this episode.
That's all me. What's up, baby? How you doing? How's everybody doing? First of all, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to be on this podcast and to interview you. You came to me with this idea of like, why don't you interview me? And I was like, challenge accepted. So you already know, because let's not lie. I shared with you some of the questions already, so that you could have time to think and ponder them a little bit.
Yep.
So I hope you did that.
I only focused on like 3 of them, but everything else I was like, I want to be fresh.
Yeah, but before we do that, I do have a little fun game for you that I want to play.
A little fun game for me?
So you already know kind of what it is, but for the audience who don't know, what I saw was TD Jakes 7 years ago on the stage of Stephen Furtick talk about his book, Crushing.
Okay.
Excellent book for those of you who haven't read it.
What's Crushing about? What's that?
Crushing, it's about how God puts us through times of like discipline to create something more out of us, right? So it's like turning water into wine, not water into wine, but turning grapes into wine. So it goes from the seed stage, and like that place of loneliness of the seed in the ground is like a stage of crushing, right? And then the stomping on the feet to make it into juice after it's been pruned and all that other stages of crushing. So like there's a bunch of stages of crushing, and he goes into each one, and he does a remarkable job of talking about it. But before they even started their episode, they also, or not episode, but their interview, they did a game where, because we all know T.D. Jakes is a great preacher, right? No matter what, this man can preach on anything. You tell him, preach to me about a towel, and he'll bring something up about, the hem of Jesus' clothing or something, and how it healed the woman. So I kind of want you to put on your T.D. Jakes thought, you know what I mean?
TD Jakes hat on.
Put your TD Jakes hat on. I'm going to give you, so what they did was they both saw the play Hamilton, right?
Okay.
Stephen Furtick and TD Jakes. And so what Stephen Furtick did was he fed him some titles of the soundtrack, and he was supposed to preach a 1-minute sermon based off of that soundtrack title of the song. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to give you one from the Hamilton play, and then 2 from secular artists, Kendrick Lamar and Kanye West, and then I'm gonna want you to preach a 1-minute sermon with that song title as your title for that sermon. So it doesn't have to do anything with the play or the song or the album or whatever.
All right,
it's just gotta be the title of your sermon. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
I've
never been challenged like this before, so this is gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun.
Like,
I already have
like a rapper, like coming up with freestyles off the top of the dome.
It's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. I have some thoughts and ideas about some of these myself.
Okay.
So we don't have to say mine, but if you are interested in whatever I have to say, I'm down to also share my 1-minute sermon.
Okay. Yeah. We could do that.
We'll start with the first one that he gave TD Jakes, or one of the ones that he gave TD Jakes, which was from the soundtrack of Hamilton, The Room Where It Happened.
The Room Where It Happened. The Room Where It Happened. That's funny. The Room Where It Happened. I'm thinking about some things. But anyway. The Room Where It Happened.
Yeah.
And there was one day Joseph and Mary were, this is after Jesus was born.
Okay.
And they was coming together in love and worship and praise to the Lord. And Joseph still had that twinkle in his eye for his lady Mary. And on that night, they laid. And in that room, some things happened. And out came the brother of Jesus, and they named him James. And that's all I got. That's all I got for that.
I mean, I was hoping that there was gonna be some sort of teaching with that. I didn't know you were just gonna. Speak
the teaching is
because my thought is
to
like,
stay married and to keep the love, keep your wife as the apple of your eye, and be fruitful and multiply. I would just say that. I don't know.
Okay. I don't know what this game.
I'm thinking of like
a
a rap, and I don't know. It's coming out like in a rap way, but anyway, let's go to the next one. We'll try one more.
All right. This one I think should be fairly straightforward. If you don't come up with what I think you're gonna come up with when I say this one, we're just gonna end the game because I don't know if you truly got the idea of what the game is.
Okay, so it's a 1-minute teaching
sermon.
So it has
to
be. I'm a pretty much.
So you can quote the Bible verse or quote a Bible verse, but it's gotta just be like a 1-minute teaching. Like what would you preach on? What would it sound like? If you were to preach a sermon with this title.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So the song is by Kendrick Lamar, and it is called "Man at the Garden."
Man at the Garden. All right.
There's two that I'm thinking of right off the top of my head.
Yes. There was a man at the garden. All right. And so, dearly beloved saints, I want you guys to take a journey with me.
You don't have to like act as though
To
you're
this
preaching
garden.
to people. You could just.
But that's how I got to do it, because I'm.
How do you preach on Sunday, bro? You don't preach that way. You don't say dearly beloved. Preach like you
I
don't
say it in my
preach.
prayer sometimes.
Okay.
When I pray.
Go on.
But
Go on with your bad self.
All right. So look, I do be pretty chill when I preach. What's it called again? The
Man at the garden.
man at the garden.
Man at the garden.
All right. And so today I want to just share with you all that there was this man named Jesus in this garden, and that he was carrying on such a burden that he was about to take on his way to the cross. That while he was in that garden, he prayed, and he prayed so much that he began to sweat blood. The road that he was about to walk down and the things that he was about to experience was very much was going to be torture, right? He was going to be crucified. He was going to have to carry his cross. They were going to pin him to that cross. They were going to put nails in his hands. They were going to rip his beard off of his face. They were going to stab him in his side. And essentially, he was going to die from pretty much choking on his own blood. That's what crucifixion did. And Jesus experienced that for you. In the garden, he prayed that the Lord would take that cup from him. But then he said some very wise words that I all think that we need to have for ourselves in our daily lives. And it's, not my will be done, but your will be done. All right. Are you ready to take up your cross, even if it brings pain and agony? Seek the Lord. And sometimes you might even have to be in a position where you pray blood, because the temptation to walk away from God's calling is so heavy on you. That's all I got.
That's pretty good. Compared to the last one you did, I think that one was way better.
That one was way better.
See, I knew Man at the Garden, and I was like, "Yep, Battle at Gethsemane." You know, Jesus in the garden.
Yep, told them disciples to go pray. And
my thought was in alignment with that is like Man at the Garden, Adam and Eve, right? Adam's in the garden. God's like, "Where are you?" And the same sin that Adam committed was the same one that Jesus was gonna rip us out from. He was about to die for, you know. So Adam sold his dominion on earth in the garden, and God redeemed our dominion in the garden.
Let me find out.
Let me find out,
Adam, that you're supposed to be leading a Bible study, and you ain't doing it yet.
Let's get into these questions now, if that's all right with you.
Let's go.
So
let's dive into it.
God has definitely been doing a lot of work in the zeitgeist, showing up a lot of times. And what I mean by that is that like a lot of people are talking about faith nowadays, right? We got Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan just had on a very prolific person in the faith. We were talking earlier, and you said that he's a win for Christianity, or that specific interview is a win for Christianity.
What's the name? Wes Huff?
Wes Huff, yep. Joe Rogan, from what I hear, and I think you might know about this, is that he's been going to church himself. There's a lot of other podcasters and a lot of other people that have been making head waves in terms of like, we believe in something, right? Whether that's Christ or God or whatever it is, something's out there, and they're investigating what that might be. So I think while atheism is still a major part of humanity right now, I think it's the numbers are slowly decreasing. With that comes questions, right? With that comes theology and wondering, what does the Bible even say about, whatever? And one of the, even amongst like other, or I guess the question that comes is like, well, which religion or which worldview, I would rather say, is right? Is it Muslim? Is it Christianity? And one of the main questions that I see circling around the internet, and one that I have for you, is what is the Trinity, right? because in Christianity we believe in the Trinity, but in the Muslim religion they don't.
Right.
So they think it's only one God, and we also believe it's only one God, but it's like three persons in one God. So what is that? What is the Trinity? What does it look like? How could you explain the Trinity to somebody who is brand new in the faith?
Good question. So first I want to just start off with saying, man, trying to understand God and who he is and all of his essence and everything and why he does the way he does things and why he set the world up. Why did Jesus come in the human form? Like all that stuff is like extremely complicated, right? We probably will never know until we actually, once we have that time and be able to sit down with Jesus and ask him these questions. And hopefully he just clearly explains them. It doesn't give it to us in parables where we got to go and figure it out.
Right.
But it's really hard, man, to understand God. And, it's just hard for us to understand the universe and how that's working and even certain parts of the earth. And so it's really hard, man, to explain, and understand who God is, man. The Bible even teaches us that humans can have a personal knowledge of God, but that God is ultimately, man, he's like, what's the word I'm looking for? He's incomprehensible. Is that how you said that word?
Yeah.
And so that's what I believe, man, that it's really hard to explain who God is and fully understand him. It's going to take us a millennia, probably plus an eternity, to fully understand who God is, because we're not divine at all, and he's divine. And so, but the Bible says in Psalms 145, verse 3, it says that the Lord is great and is highly praised. His greatness is unsearchable. His greatness is unsearchable, right? That is in the Psalms. Again, it's really hard to fully grasp who God is. There's another verse in Isaiah 55 that says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts,
nor my
neither
ways
are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." And so we can fully understand God's ways. We can't fully understand God's ways, or fully understand why he does the things that he does. Right. And so he's God, he's supreme. I was explaining to some kids about time, and I said God is outside of time, and it was very hard for them to understand what do you mean he's outside of time. I was like, the sun and the moon, they don't rise and set with God, right? He makes those things. He's watching those things. He's making those things happen.
Yeah.
And so, man, it's just, it's really hard. And so I would explain the Trinity, and I'll go down to, how we'll explain it to children. It's probably the easiest and the most simplest way. What I use the shamrock example analogy. Okay. And so the shamrock,
interesting.
It has 3 clovers. Even if you pull those clovers off, there's still a leaf, and nothing about it changes. Every part makes up that leaf. Nothing is different about them. Even if you pull one off, it doesn't change. It's still a leaf. It's still a shamrock. And so that's kind of the one of the simpler analogies that I use when I'm breaking down the Trinity. But yeah, I mean, God he's 3 in 1. And so it's one God, 3 different persons, 3 distinct persons. And so just the same way with the shamrock, you have 3, I just forget that word that fast.
3 leaves?
3 leaves, or 3, is it clovers?
Clovers, yeah.
3 clover leaves. 3 clovers attached together to make one leaf. God is one God with 3 persons, right? Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
That's how I would explain the Trinity.
Okay. It's a very interesting. I didn't think about that analogy. We've talked about this before in the past, and I brought to you a different analogy, although I don't know that you necessarily gave me your full answer on what your thoughts are on it.
About the body, mind, and soul?
Yeah, so the way that I've kind of thought about it in the past was like, well, Jesus tells us to like look at the sky, look at the birds in the sky. He initiates the idea of biology to find God. Like, go and study all these things, study what is on the earth, what's in the earth, and you will find God, right? So we are part of the earth. So if we're going to understand God, we could also try to use his creation to try and understand him, not that the creation itself is God.
Right.
I just want to make that clear. But so the same way, so like, God in the garden, before he made man, or he's like, let us make man in our image. Who's us? What do you mean? Right. So wait, if we're made in the image of God, how could our biology or the way that we are show God's nature in a sense? Not only do we look like God in the sense that, there's a human form, I guess, but the same way that we are mind, body, and soul. So God could be thought about as mind, body, and soul. We have a mind, that's God the Father, a body, which is Jesus Christ, and a soul, which would be the Holy Spirit.
Right.
I don't know if most people believe that we have a soul. I don't know if anybody, like any atheists, believe they have a soul. So I think that's kind of where the analogy can start falling apart. You can't really get to that understanding of that analogy unless you believe that there is the soul.
So I did look into the analogy that you use, and I think it would be good, but it does have some flaws that can lead to like modalism.
Okay.
So because Jesus was here on earth, and he was still 100% God.
Right.
And the Father was still in heaven, and the Holy Spirit was still in heaven. And with the mighty body, mind, and soul, it has to be, you can't separate them at all. And then one dies without the other one.
Well.
And so that's why I said it kind of leads into like modalism, like different modes. If I remove my mind from my body is no longer being in use.
Right.
They can't function on their own, separate from each other.
Well, so neither could, I would say, Christ separate or be separated from the Father in the same way. They might not be connected in the same way that our body is connected by spinal cord and neurons and all sorts of other stuff. But there is, I guess, other extra spiritual things at play that keep them in one accord. Yeah. Right? So that's the kind of, I guess, my answer that would be for that.
The only reason why I say that is because Jesus was physically here.
Yeah.
And the Father was still in heaven operating and doing what he was doing up there. And Jesus was still 100% God here. And then the Father was still 100% God in heaven.
Yeah.
Along with the Holy Spirit. So, yeah.
Well, let's think about it like this for a moment, right? You can be physically here, but your mind can be elsewhere. Your attention could be somewhere else.
My mind can't do anything else.
What do you mean? Oh, like outside of your body, you mean?
Yeah, like,
well, yeah,
I can
but
think
like
of things, but I can't like.
But your mind can still be in a separate place, like not maybe physically, but metaphysically. Like you're not paying attention to me, but you're paying attention to something. Your mind is occupied somewhere else. And that somewhere else is more of like a metaphor than anything else. But I guess that's one way to think about, like, even though Christ was here, like the Father, the brain was still, his attention was in heaven. I don't know. That's just a thought. It's not a perfect analogy.
Like we said, it's
whatever.
The Trinity is very, very tricky. And it's not, I want to, anybody who might be watching, who might be thinking about this, like, it's not a heaven or hell thing.
Yeah.
Some people have like elevated the Trinity to like, if you don't believe in the Trinity, then like you're deemed for hell. It's very hard to understand. You know, they got all these different analogies. They got the water, ice, they got
Steam.
The mist, ice, and then water, right? They use that. They got, I've heard the fruit, apple, right? You got the peel, you got the middle, you got the seed. They got all these different things, man. It's really hard to explain the Trinity because we truly only based on the verses that we have in the Bible. That's the only way that we can
Right.
understand it. And so I take it what it is. I believe that there is a Holy Trinity, and that's how God chose to reveal himself in his scripture. And, I want to fully understand it, but, it's hard. I do have a book that I recommend to people. It's called The Forgotten Trinity by James White. Read it. It's really good. He breaks down the Trinity in a way that you can explain it to like Muslims and things like that, because he does a lot of debates.
Oh, interesting.
It's a really good book. But I mean, yeah, the Trinity it's very, very, complicated.
Yeah, and one thing to also keep in mind too is that it's like we're talking about a fourth dimensional plus being who is God, right? He is outside of time, space, and matter. And we're trying to stick him in a box of time, space, and matter, and trying to understand him with our own tiny little 5-pound brain. Like it's every analogy that we can have is going to fall short to whatever is reality. So
yeah, that's good. That we would need a whole podcast just for the Trinity to dive into like scripture and really set it up and do it justice.
And what's crazy too is that we can make that podcast and do a multiple part series and still fall short.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, because you have some very like high level theologians and they debate about the Trinity, you know what I'm saying, and how to explain it. So, but they believe that it is a Trinity. It's just how do you explain it is difficult.
Exactly.
And that's what makes God, right? Because if he wasn't God and we could just explain him very simply, I don't believe he wouldn't be God.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Even Jesus tried to explain the kingdom of God simply, and people were like, that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, people still trying to debate how Jesus was 100% human and then at the same time 100% God. Yeah. So if he was God, he didn't need to eat and he didn't need to sleep, but he still was 100% human.
Also, 100% plus 100%, that's 200%. You can't have that. Percent means per 100.
Yeah.
Mathematically,
so
that'll make no sense.
You got the super logical mathematic thinkers, and so it's a lot, and so it can get really, really intense. You start thinking about it, but I mean, I think the Bible's clear. It's like you said, one of the key verses is let us make them in our image. Jesus wasn't, or God wasn't talking to the angels. He never, when you read the rest of scripture, he never consults the angels in as far as creation. They are messengers. They always get sent out. They do what they told. So, and we never see any angels create anything. They only deliver messages, and we see them fighting on our behalf, like in the spiritual world, right? Fighting other fallen angels, things like that. So they're never part of the creation. And then, you fast forward to John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Yeah. You got those type of verses. And so, I would say, man, if do a good study. There's some other like really good YouTube videos that dive into the Trinity. This is not that channel, but I can drop the links to the other ones in the description. But I believe in the Trinity. I'm a Trinitarian. If I had to fall under that label, it's very hard to explain. But using these simple analogies that we have here, like water or fruit or shamrock, it's probably the best simple way that we can kind of explain how the Trinity is on a very, very basic level.
Cool. I was gonna ask a question about faith proclamation, but I think we can actually skip that because that's, I feel like, a question we can come back to, since most of it is more about like Jordan Peterson himself than anything else. Although most people can, probably gain something from that. I think we can revisit that when we go through his book, because there's a specific thing that Wes Huff said in his interview with Joe Rogan that I think ties it all together. That makes it makes more sense. So we can just move into the following question. And I think this ties in pretty well, since like we were talking about God being in the zeitgeist, or God being more, I wouldn't say more, the conversation of God is being talked more, is being said more. Because, you know, even 10 years ago, people would be like, oh, yeah, you can't, the three things you don't talk about, God, politics, and money, right? But now we hear a lot of people talking about God. So,
People talking about everything now.
yeah.
People
And
who ain't married talking about marriage. It's like, fam, you ain't even been married. How you know? You won't give me advice on marriage. You ain't never been married.
I mean, I'll give you some advice about marriage.
Oh man.
Communicate. Anyways, and with that comes like the question of like, well, what's the evidence for the Bible? And I guess the West Huff thing also kind of answers that. But what are some evidences of the Bible that convinced you that the Bible is true? Is I think a question that I want to know.
Yeah. So a little bit,
or
about,
other anecdotal evidence from
Yeah.
like the world or history or whatever.
So I experienced the spiritual aspect of Christianity before I ever looked into any evidence of, you know, the Bible and if this is actually true. So I grew up in a Christian household, and so because I grew up in that Christian household, my mom, you know, she took me to church, made me learn the Bible, but I seen like spiritual things happen that I could never forget, even if I wanted to. And so those things kind of kept me, you know, like believing in God and Christianity. But when I was older, I did like start to look into other religions, Islam, you know, Buddhist, and just like, wow, we got so many different religions and what are they talking about and things like that. And so
Right.
for me, what really helped me and confirmed my faith in Jesus and said, like, this is it, is really all the evidence that's it's kind of like outside of the Bible. Like I didn't pick up the Bible and read it and say, yes, this is real.
Right.
There was evidence around the Bible, in history, that confirmed what I read in the Bible, that made it real for me. And so there are there's thousands, I believe 4,000 plus manuscripts that we have of this ancient text, right? We either have full manuscripts or we have pieces of manuscripts. And so when you look at them and you compare them, like these things are all, I mean, they all date back to like the 2nd century AD. It's some good stuff. And it's like these people really wrote about these experiences. Like we have these documents, and they have been, you know, examined very closely, especially now with like modern technology and science. Like we can see like these things were written. It's not fake. It's not some like, you know, book that people didn't believe in. 4,000 plus, you know, copies, pieces of manuscript that we found. That's a significant amount. We have it's the most manuscript of any ancient text ever in the world.
And the accuracy of each one of them too is pretty prolific.
Yeah. Yep. So the accuracy of it, we got to, we fast forward, we got the Dead Sea Scrolls, and, you know, that just opened even, you know, that was more evidence on top of the evidence that we already had, and how accurate they were. We have the book of Isaiah, and I think specifically Isaiah 58, the one that prophesies about Jesus.
Oh, okay.
We have a big chunk, if not all of the book of Isaiah. I believe we have the whole thing. I could be wrong, but I know we have a big chunk of the book of Isaiah. And then my third thing would be all the prophecies that were fulfilled. There's hundreds of prophecies fulfilled just from the Old Testament. And so when you look at these prophecies and you examine them and you're like, how did this happen?
Messianic prophecies or just prophecies in general?
So we got messianic prophecies. We have the book of Isaiah, who prophesied about the coming of Jesus, how he would be crucified, all these things. And this was written a couple thousand years before Jesus walked.
Right.
And so how did this person write this book and prophesied about the exact of who Jesus would be, exact events that would happen? And so we have hundreds of those in the Old Testament. And people try to, you know, mainly like I see a lot of Muslims who try to like disregard, like, nah, that's not accurate, or that's not true, or the Bible's been changed and all this other stuff. I'm like, well, if it's been changed so many times, where are the manuscripts that it's been changed from? Where are those?
Yeah.
If it's been changed, you're saying that it's been changed, but you don't have anything to show me to say that, yeah, this has been changed. Look, this is older. This is, was written 1,000 years before, blah, blah, blah. They don't have that. They just keep saying that it's been changed, but they don't show us any proof that it's been changed. So, we have...
I've heard that recently. Somebody told me it's not exactly the words that have changed, but the meaning of words. And so, like, let's say, for instance, the idea of homosexuality used to actually mean, to some people, or it used to mean back then when it was given in Leviticus, it was men with young men. So what is that? Pedophilia. Yeah. So it doesn't mean that now. It means something else, and they're grouped in together. So yeah, that's what I've heard recently. I don't know if you have any ideas or thoughts on that.
I mean, when you read Leviticus chapter 18, that's the chapter that talks about homosexuality in the Old Testament. And then in the New Testament, it's Romans. I can't think of the chapter right now, but it's in the book of Romans. It's very clear, right? They state, both books wrote by different people. They both state what they mean. And they even give other examples, right? He addresses the men and tells the men, don't lay with other men. He tells the women, don't lay with other women. And so you go back to the oldest manuscript. It was written in Hebrew, and you read it. I mean, it's there and it's really clear. And we have that. So, I mean, the argument of like, hey, this is what it meant, or it was changed from here. Like, well, I mean, we have the oldest manuscript, and that's what it says in Hebrew.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I'm not an expert on languages, but
right.
I mean, the people been studying and showing these things forever. I think a lot of people twist. I mean, even today, people twist the Bible to make it say what they want it to say. When they preach, they take things out of context. But the great thing about, again, these manuscripts is that we have them, right? So we have, we have the history, and the way that you're applying it or your understanding, it could be flawed. Most of those people in the videos, the conversations that I've had, most of those, they're practicing homosexuals.
Right.
I'm just keeping it
Just
real.
trying to...
So they're saying that, no, it means something different, or it means this. And they're saying that, I know it means, not to have sex with little boys, because they want to keep living their same lifestyle.
Trying to justify their lifestyle.
Yeah. So there's a guy, his name's Brandon something. He's like he's like a pastor of a church, but he debated Dr. Michael Brown. He debated him. They got like a 30-minute debate on YouTube when they were discussing all these things. And Dr. Michael Brown, we know, is like beyond super smart. He can speak, I think he speaks like 7 or 8 languages. He knows Hebrew, he knows Greek, been teaching these things for a long time. And, he was even, arguing with him about it. So, yeah, I think, people just, accept what it says and then live it out. If that's the type of lifestyle that you want to live, then I think you still, as a human being, deserve respect and deserve to be treated with dignity. But just don't say that you're a Christian, right? Or you're believing in the Bible because the Bible says otherwise. And that just doesn't go for homosexuals. It goes for anybody if you out here gangbanging, if you out here, you having, sex outside of marriage, you out here getting high, you getting drunk, all these things. Don't try to use Christianity and say, oh no, it doesn't, I'm okay. This is not sin. Like, it is sin. The Bible calls all those things sin. So don't justify. Just say, hey, I want to live my life how I want to live it. Don't call yourself a Christian.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's really it. Because
then, in that regard, that's idolatry, right? It's using the Bible and just taking out what you don't like to fit your agenda, your need, or your ideas. And and still calling it God, but it's like, that's not God anymore.
Yeah.
That's something else, because you've re-identified. It's the same sin as the Garden of Eden, you know, when Satan, or when the serpent looked at Eve and was like, what, are you really going to die? The reason why God doesn't want you to eat that fruit is because you will be like God, knowing good and evil. But the no in that sentence was more of, you will know, meaning you will define for yourself what is good and evil. Or that's the same way that God does. He defines good and evil. So we will be like God, defining for ourselves what is good and evil. So that's what people, I guess, have been doing for all of time, is just trying to redefine what good and evil is for themselves. And that's why we get into all this strife in arguments and stuff. One of the funniest quotes that I've gotten or heard is this comedian, Jeff Allen. Have you ever heard of him or seen him?
Not till you told me about him.
Yeah, he's pretty funny.
I haven't seen his stand up, unless you sent me some clips. I don't be paying attention to the names when we be sharing clips. I just be playing the video and then just
so he used to be an atheist at one point, and he would go play golf with one of his buddies who was Christian, and they would talk about the Bible at some point, and his friend would be like, so have you read the Bible? Or like, why are you an atheist? You know, what proved to me that there is no God? And he's like, well, prove to me that there is. He's like, well, have you read the Bible? He's like, no, I haven't read it. So his friend was like, so what you're telling me is that you're not an atheist, you're just a moron. Because if you haven't read the Bible, then how can you say that there is no God? You know, It's like you don't even know what you're talking about. You know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, we can move on from there, and I want to talk to you about relationships, communication. You've been married for a long time, brother. How long have we been married for?
Going on 13 years. We've been together going on 21 years.
13 years, 21 years.
Yep.
How long you've been together? It's a lot of time.
It is. It's more than half our lives. We got together when we were 16 years old.
That's crazy.
Yep.
One of the main things that I hear from married people when talking about marriage. So I don't know if I should tell the story. I guess I'll just say this. The one piece of advice that I hear constantly among married people is communicate, right? But it's like, what is that? What is that? First of all, I think is a good question. What is communication? What does it look like? What does it sound like?
I mean, I think there's 3 forms of communication. You have your body language, right? You have where you communicate with words, and then you communicate with your actions. So those are the 3 things that we have to pay attention to when we talk about communicating. At least for me. I mean, unless you got some other ones, but.
No, I mean those are the 3 primary forms of communication. But I guess when people say like communicate with your partner, communicate with your wife, communicate with, what does that mean? Like, does it mean with those 3 modes? Because some people, they communicate with their words or with their actions, but their words they don't use. And it's like, if you just tell me what it is going on, be clear with me, maybe I'll understand what your body language is, what you're trying to portray to me through your body language.
Yeah. So there is, I mean, as time goes on, like my wife communicates with me. I can look at her face and tell if she's bothered. So if we're at like a social gathering, we got about like 2 or 3 hours, and my wife, her social tank is going to be drained. So I can look at her and tell like, okay, she's ready to get out of here, right? Without anybody else knowing, because I've been with her, I know her. She doesn't have to tell me. I can look at her and be like, all right, it's time to go. So, hey, kids, start getting ready. And then I can, signal her, and then we can get out of there. Right. That's, part of me learning how to communicate is understanding her body language, signs either directly or indirectly that she may be giving. I need to be paying attention to that. That's a part of like learning your spouse, understanding her. Then, talking, right? Making sure that you guys communicate how you feel. Talk about things that you're bothered by. Talk about things that make you happy.
What does that sound like? like if your wife wants you to help her with the dishes, how like what way does she express that, and what way would you want her to express that?
I mean, so I did the
To just give a basic
dishes,
analogy.
Yeah, my house for a long time. I mean, my wife is pretty straightforward, so she would just be like, "Can you wash these dishes?" Right? Or if she wants something, she'll communicate it to me, like let me know there's something that she wants done, and she'll like just verbally tell me, and then it's my responsibility to like, okay, this is what she really wants this.
Right.
You know, let me make sure that I'm intentional with getting it done.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Trying to think of another one. Yeah, like taking out the garbage. I know.
That's a better one.
My wife doesn't like my wife doesn't take the garbage out. Me and my son do. But you know, when the garbage gets full, take it out. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't have to like tell me unless I come home and then like the garbage is like full because she was cleaning or whatever, and then she'll just simply, hey, can you run those out? Or you know, I'll tell my son, hey, run those out to the garbage. I make sure that it gets done. So I mean, that's really it, man. It's
pass down the responsibility.
It's really straightforward. Man, look, I got 5 kids, bro. They gonna clean them dishes. They gonna take them they gonna take the garbage out. I'll pay the bills. You know, y'all gonna maintain this household.
Team effort.
Y'all gonna help my wife. You know, if she gonna cook, y'all gonna do the dishes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I bought the food. She cooked the food. Y'all clean. Y'all ate the food. Now y'all gonna clean the plates. You know what I'm saying? It's a nice little cycle. My kids are not small. You know, even my youngest Dash, who's about to be 5, you know, he's not a small. He understands. So you know, hey, pick them toys up, them Nerf darts, all that stuff. Get it up, and so he has responsibilities as well.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool. And the reason why I ask, like, what does that sound like? What does that look like? Is because I know that there's a lot of people struggling in their marriages, right, with communication. They're probably not doing it right. They're probably, one of the things that I like to do is watch. I guess something that my dad got me into was listening to marriage advice before I even got married, to like kind of get up that knowledge and try to understand it from a theoretical point of view, so that when I get into it at some point in my life, it's not going to be that big of a learning curve.
Yeah.
I could just be that person for my wife in the future. And so one podcast that I listen to all the time is Diary of a CEO. We've talked about it on this podcast. You've talked to me about it. I've gone to you a lot of the times about it. And one specific episode that comes to mind is this old Jewish couple, Julie and John Gottman. They run a research lab where they host a bunch of different people or couples to stay there for one night at a time, right? Each couple stays there for one night. And they have a bunch of like cameras and monitors, and they're recording their like heartbeat and their other signals that they're giving just biologically. And they're trying to understand what makes a successful marriage. How do people become successful in relationship, I guess, in general? And they didn't even just do this with straight couples, but also gay couples as well.
You could say the word gay.
I did say gay. I'm afraid gay couples. So one of the things that they came across was that the couples that do poorly in a relationship tend to judge and not condemn, but they judge each other in their communication. So if let's say you came home and your wife just did a bunch of cleaning and the trash is full, she can come at you and be like, "You never take out this trash. Why are you always like do this? Every time I need you, you're not here for me. Why are you always like this?" You know, judging constantly. And it's like, you're frustrated. I get it. There's a lot going on right now, and you just need me to take out the trash. Just say that. Right?
Yeah. The biggest thing is we can't operate in absolutes, right? When you say like you never do this, or you know you're always doing that, it's like
this judging.
I'm not always doing nothing. And then so that's what
even if they've done it a lot of times in the past.
And then it's like
it's not.
And then if that person hadn't done it for a long time,
Yeah.
and then it's like, man, and now the person wants to defend themselves and say, man, well, for X amount of time, and I've been do it down to one time that I missed the mark. Like now you're blowing up at me. Like relax, you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, having those strong words, those absolutes could be very damaging, to the relationship. Yeah. I think also, man, people have to learn how to have safe spaces in their relationship. So whether they're, if it's like a thing of like, if something is bothering you, setting aside a time to bring that up to your spouse. So you don't bring this up in a blow up and then you, man, that's a word. And you just continue to like.
Perpetual?
Nah, it's, so you bring up one thing, but then you bring up another thing, and then you bring up another thing, and you just keep going.
Oh, you like explode on them.
Yeah. And so, if you see, man, your spouse, missing the mark or whatever, pull them to the side and be able to have a conversation with you and be like, hey man, listen, I just want you to know how I feel right now in this moment. When you do this is how it makes me feel. Right. And just being able to have a calm conversation, but don't bring those things up in the heat. In the heat of the battle, because it's gonna be an explosion. You know what I'm saying? You catching that person off guard, they're kind of like, what? Now they feel attacked, and then it just goes from there. So a lot of people do that. Me and my wife, we used to do that, right? We had to learn how to have healthy conversations, where if she brings up something to me, you know what I'm saying, I'm okay. Well, either let's not talk about this right now, or let's go in the room and like they break this down for me. You know what I'm saying? You're feeling like this. Why? You know what I'm saying? I think a big one is like, I don't feel like you love me. They might mean like, I don't feel like you love me in this moment, really. It's probably what they're trying to say, but they're like, I feel like you love me.
Is that what your wife says to you at all? Or is that just an example you've heard?
We've had a conversation about it where she was dealing with something, and then I thought I was doing my best at serving her throughout that day, and helping her. And then I came home with the kids, kind of just moose out on the couch. But she wanted me like in the room with her. And in that moment, she felt like I didn't love her. And I was just like, what? Like I was upset at how she was coming at me, because I'm like, man, I just sat down and I'm just chilling. Right. Like, how does that mean I don't love you? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it was making sure that I check myself and I don't blow up. And then for her, it would have been of like, even if you feel like that, like bring that up, but don't attack me and say like, I don't love you. Right. Like I literally just served you like all day. Like my actions spoke much louder than my words that day. And it wasn't like for a little bit, it was like hours, right? She was sick. We had to go to the ER. I was there at the ER with her. And then, we had to pick up the kids, go back home. Like it was a lot of things happening. And then I just sat on the couch and was just like, woof. My kids was talking to me. I'm trying to, talk to them a little bit, but she was in the room. And then, she assumed that I was going to just be with her in the room. And I was sitting on the couch just chilling. I wasn't like, all right, I'm done with you for the night. I was just sitting there chilling. And like she was offended, and we had to have a conversation about it. Like, I know you're emotional, you're in pain, you're upset. But I'm like, I'm not the enemy right now. Like I just needed a little minute. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so you got to learn how to have those conversations. Yeah.
So one thing that they mentioned in the podcast episode, and I very much highly recommend everybody go and watch it, because I feel like it's relationship 101 class is what it is. They put so much good information on there that I'm like, I've heard these things for my entire life, and no one has ever broken it down to me the way that they broke it down. And the formulas that they give, some people might think like, oh, well, no one actually talks that way. But it's like, there's also like 70% divorce rates right now. So it's like, if nobody talks this way, maybe they should, because it's clear that it would be helpful if you did.
You got some examples of what they were saying?
Yeah, so I was going to get into that. So one of the ways that, like, for instance, your wife could have come to you instead would have been like, instead of saying like, oh, I don't feel like you love me right now, right? She's blaming in that moment. You don't love me. And instead of saying that, she could have been like, I don't feel loved, or I feel alone, or I feel blank. And then in addition to that, saying, I would like blank, or I will feel loved if you blank. Come into the room with me. Come lay down. Come bring me some soup. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I feel alone. I would really love it if you can come in here and just, cuddle me or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's like so clear. It's not judgmental. It's not blaming. It's very straightforward, I feel. And it's like, yeah, that might be formulaic, and you probably will have to stick to a formula at first if you're new to that sort of way of communicating. But at some point, it just becomes second nature, and you can put your own spin and thoughts into it.
It's a healthy way to go about it, man. I think everything that's good, right, is really hard for us to do, because we want a lot of the things that are unhealthy for us. They're real quick and easy, right? We want to eat. We got fast food, McDonald's. We should be eating that stuff. But man, it takes time to like go buy this salad, right? Buy this bag of salad, buy these cucumbers, these tomatoes, cut it up, you know what I'm saying, and make the salad like properly. It takes time to make a salad. Some places you can go in and buy it, they'll make it for you or whatever. But if you're like, man, I'm gonna save money, I'm gonna eat at home, you won't have to make the salad. Most likely you'll have to make it from scratch. It's gonna take time. And the same thing with communication and relationships. Man, it takes time and practice. Going back to the salad, you gotta learn how to cut, cucumbers, tomatoes, whatever. You gotta learn how to, dice up the onions or whatever. You gotta, put it in the bowl. You gotta, measure things, blah, blah, blah. You gotta look at this stuff and be intentional with like what you're putting in your body.
Right.
That's the same thing with relationships. We have to be intentional with how we communicate, how we talk to each other, and making sure like that we're not doing harm. You know what I'm saying? And so there's a big thing with like feelings. Yeah. And some churches have done a terrible job at addressing like feelings. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You got the whole thing like faith over feelings, which I agree with, but feelings are real. Right, God gave us emotions and feelings for a reason. Right, and so if a person is feeling a certain type of way, we can't just dismiss that and say, man, that's just your feelings. But what's real though? You know what I'm saying? Like we can't go about it like that. We have to be like, well, why? I would ask the question, why are you feeling like that? Yeah, like why do you feel that way? Is this a one time in the moment thing that you feel right now? Or is it something that's been building up? People. A lot of times you hear people when they be freaking out, I feel like I'm about to die. I feel like I'm going to die. And it's like, well, you don't know what death feels like. Right. You never relax, let's breathe. And then you're not going to die. I feel like I'm going to die. Well, you're not going to die.
But also, why do you feel like you're going to die?
Yeah, like what's going on?
What is around you? Yeah. And
so let's get to that. Okay, you feel like you're going to die. Why? You're too hot. You need some water, whatever. Like, okay, well, let's get some understanding, and then that way we can deal with it.
That understanding could also be something along the lines of like, what in your past has brought you to this moment that makes you feel like you're going to die, right? Like, did you go through some sort of trauma in your past that makes this an automatic reflex that you feel like, oh, crap, I'm about to die. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's something else that I feel like the church hasn't done a great justice in either, is going through trauma. Oh, God will heal you from trauma. Yeah, but you should also probably talk about that.
Yeah, you should. Jesus in therapy.
Yeah, Jesus in therapy.
We definitely need to get some, get some therapy, and that therapy could be, hopefully, it's Christian therapy, right, where you actually sit down with, a licensed, therapist and really help them to help you process your thoughts, because a lot of times we just don't know how to process our thoughts, man. Like even when we read the Bible, there's so much in the Bible that you read and you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, what did I just read?
Lot did what to his daughters? What in the? I don't want to read this book ever again. Like, and we don't even understand like this book that we're reading. We just read this story. I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? What? David had his man's waxed and took his wife, got her pregnant? Oh, heck no. Like, if we don't even know how to process that because we know somebody or that kind of hits home for us.
Yeah.
And now we like, I don't even want to read the rest of the Bible if it's going to be like this.
The Bible is so violent. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just have to make sure we like know how to process our thoughts, right? What is triggering you to have that feeling, that emotion,
right?
And go from there. And so I think everybody needs to at some time go to therapy. Even if you don't think you need therapy, you probably need it.
Yeah.
Right. You need to be at church. You need community. You need to be praying. You need to be reading your Bible, and you also need therapy.
Right.
So.
Yeah. That's great. That's a lot of. It's been my whole life, I think, trying to figure that out is like therapy. Not even therapy, but just like how does my past influence my future or my now, you know? I wanted to just kind of bring up a couple of statistics real quick and get your thoughts and opinions on these statistics in terms of some of the results that Julie and John Gottman, going back to them for a moment, and how that applies to having success in a relationship. And I don't know, you might not have any thoughts, and that's okay. But one of the things that, and I can give you some examples of what this means, but one of the things that they bring up is successful relationships turn to one another 87% of the time. So
successful relationships turn to one another 86% of the time.
87.
87.
You got to work harder than that. 86. You got to go to 87. But what that means is like your wife makes bids of connection to you. You make bids of connection to her, whether you guys probably either realize it or not. But like, let's say you guys are in the car and she sees something and points it out, or you're at your computer in the living room and she's sitting by the window looking outside and she sees something and she makes mention of it. Oh, look, there's a bird, right? And you're busy doing whatever it is you're doing. 87% successful relationships turn to that thing that their wife is pointing out to them 87% of the time. So you'll be like, oh, wow, it's an interesting bird, you know? That's all it takes, I think, is what they said in the podcast to make your relationship a little bit more successful. Do you have any thoughts on that? Any ideas and maybe times where you haven't turned to your wife and you're like, dang, I probably should have done that a little bit more?
Yeah, man. And so what has helped us in those type of moments is I'm very like a task-driven person. So if I'm in the middle of a task, like I tell the kids, you know, like, hey, I'm about to be working on this. I tell my wife, like, I'm gonna need 2 hours to do this. So she doesn't bother me, or she doesn't feel like if she says something, then I'm like, huh, what? Or I get, you know, distracted. Now I'm like, oh, she's bringing up birds or, you know, whatever. And now I'm like, I'm trying to focus on this thought, and you're telling me about a bird. Like, smoke that bird. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I tend to feel when I get distracted. But there's times where I'm just sitting, and then she'll be like, I ain't really doing that though. She'll be like, well, can you take 15 minutes and just like watch TikTok videos with me? And I'm like, all right, cool. Okay. And so I can take a break, and then I'll, you know, but if I try to let them know, like, if I'm working on something, it's because like I have to work on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me get that time, and then I'm free. But the more you distract me, the longer it's gonna take for me to finish.
Right.
And now I'm frustrated because it's taking me a long time to finish. You're frustrated because I'm not giving you the time that you feel that you need. And then now we're both frustrated, and now we're looking at each other and you know, in anger. So let me finish what I got to do. If you want to go and look at the birds, go look at the birds. But you ain't got to tell me about it right now in this moment. You know what I'm saying? And so I think recognizing, you know, when your spouse is doing something. And my wife has gotten like a whole lot better. Like, she'll see me on the computer, and she'll be like, are you doing something like important? And then I'll be like, no. Or I was just touching up a video. What's up? But just, you know, if she needs my attention or she wants my attention, just let me know. And then I have to be better at like being more like romantic. That's romantic to my wife, is like looking at houses. watching TikTok videos, going on drives, and like, you know, neighborhood stuff like that. Like that's romantic to her. So giving her that her love language is quality time.
Right.
Like all of them. Like
her 3 love languages are quality time,
bruh,
quality time.
You know, I think it's 5. All of hers are quality time.
That's fun.
Like my wife she don't care about gifts. Praise the Lord. I don't
Hallelujah.
have a materialistic woman.
Some people might think that, wait, you saying that you can't just send your wife a package on Amazon and she'll think you love her?
I mean,
because that's I feel like very low effort.
So
you just gotta bring her some shoes or something.
So yeah, if I did that before, right? And I used to get mad because I'm big on like getting gifts. So paying attention to like stuff she wants and then like buying it, right? Or like things that I know she needs and then like getting it. And then I don't get that response because I'm like, just got her this little gift. I'm finna go ahead and sit back and look at this. She'd be like, oh, this is nice. And she'd be like, and then she keeps going. I'm like, fam, you don't like it? And she's like, no, it's good. I like it. And then she's like, she didn't ask for it. So she's not interested. It's like, oh yeah, I didn't ask you to get me that though, but let's go on this walk, right?
Your
like,
wife and I are very similar.
Like I'm like, what the heck? So one time I bought her, man, what was it? Oh my goodness, it was like flowers. It was a ring. It was some things for Mother's Day, and bruh, I put on like this whole little show, and then she gave me she's like, oh, this is nice. This is nice. The kids were all excited. She's like, this is nice. And then she was like, okay. And then she set that thing down. and I was like, you dirty. Like, what you mean?
Yeah.
You better give me some smooches, a hug.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I realized like my wife is not.
She's not that type of person.
That's not her love language. She don't care about gifts. She just wants like, her gift is me spending time with her.
Yeah.
So, you know,
you're not
like
that guy, pal.
Like date night. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's like, I don't care about you having gifts at the house. Like, she'd rather go for a walk or go get a coffee or something that we can just, me planning out a date night, even if it's simple, don't got to be like steak and lobster. It could be us just going to the coffee shop. She would like be head over heels for that. And so understanding who your spouse is and what they like, it's going to help you. Because if you're trying to force them to be somebody or you're trying to give them things that they're not really interested in, you ain't going to do nothing but make yourself more frustrated. And then, Oof. So you're going to save yourself some time and possibly some money.
Right. Well, depending on what her love language is.
Depending on what your wife's love language is.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, you got
right tool for the right job.
Yeah. And I'm not big on gifts. I like gadgets. Like if you buy me like a new car charger that I've been looking at on Amazon or something like that, I'd be like, that's like stuff that I know I like. That small little things, things like little tech things.
Tchotchkes.
You know what I'm saying?
Some
like
people call them. Tchotchkes is what some people call them.
What language is that?
I think it's Yiddish. I'm thinking I could be wrong.
So little things like that. I don't need Jordans. I don't need. You know, like
J's on my feet.
If you come show me like a new design for like the Weird Perspective hoodie or something, you know what I'm saying? Which y'all need to cop some merch, people. Anyway, you know, stuff like that. Like help me design some stuff like that. I like quality time, and I think words of affirmation is my top 2 love languages.
What's the third?
I don't know. I haven't done it in like 4 years. I probably need to redo it just to see where I'm at, because I'm in a different space in life, and so I'm just busy. My interests are a little different. I think I'm a tad different of a person than I was when I first took that. Like I'm doing this podcast. I'm, you know, married, husband, father. I'm an associate pastor at my church. I'm involved in the community. So just
humble flex.
I'm different, huh?
I said humble flex.
Humble flex.
Yeah, it's a joke.
Oh yeah, nah. I'm not trying to flex, but I mean, I'm just. It's where God has.
Like it is, yeah.
God has given me.
I got 17, 11 kids. Got all this stuff.
You know what? I do accept when people give me compliments about my kids, because I think I'm in the generation, I work with kids, and so being intentional with like paying attention to your kids and having well-behaved kids, like I like when I get those compliments. It's probably the only thing that I'll be like, yeah,
Because you put a lot of work in
I put a lot of freaking work in, bro.
He brought out the clicker and the treats
so,
and everything.
Man, we took this class called Growing Kids God's Way, and it has paid off. And then I learned from other PKs, preachers' kids.
Right.
I don't want my kids to have that experience with me, as their father. So, we run in Uno tournaments at the crib. I wrestle with my sons, and we shoot Nerf guns, and we do things that we can do at the house. Because I want to be the fun dad. You know what I'm saying? I don't want my kids to be like, oh, my dad's home, ugh. You know what I'm saying? Or my dad never spends time with me, or he's always busy, locked away in his office,
reading that Bible.
He's always reading that Bible, but he don't teach it to me. I don't want my kids to be that. I want to, so we have family Bible studies. I give my kids open space to be able to tell me what do you think that something I could do better. Even when I preach, I ask my kids, how did I do? Did you guys understand me? Was I clear? And they be like, you mispronounced this word. Trying to get better at my pronunciation.
Yeah.
I went to CPS, Chicago Public Schools.
Wasn't Child Protective Service? I'm just kidding. We got to start doing tongue twisters before each podcast episode.
Oh, we could do that too.
So that you can.
And I used to be able to rap really fast when
Okay.
I was younger, like Twister. I used to be able to spit like that.
Twister, the
rapper.
Rapper.
Yeah. And so, but I spoke a lot of slang growing up, so it's kind of hindered me now in this podcasting space and preaching space where I have to enunciate and, pronounce words at a certain way and things like that. So I'm learning, y'all. I'm trying to get better.
I got your back.
But shout outs to Adam for going to we went to the same high school, but he went years later.
Yeah, and not only did I go years later, I transferred 2 years into high school. So I went there junior and senior year.
And they were a much better high school when you went. They weren't.
I mean,
it was like an average high school when I was there. But when y'all went,
average when
y'all got all the super. They pushed us out, and then they got the really smart kids in there, and they started to do some stuff there. So, but yeah. Anyway, I'm going down rabbit trails.
So let me get one more statistic to you, and then we can keep it going. Because one of the things too that I wanted to talk to you about is your fatherhood, and just being a man in general. And I think that, would you say that your fatherhood is very closely related to your manhood, or you being a man influences your fatherhood? I guess it has to, right? Because in order to be a father, you have to be a man.
Yeah, man. So that's a really good question.
Yeah.
You had some.
No, I was gonna go back, but answer that question, and then we'll take a step back and then come back forward.
Yeah. So I am a man.
Wait, what?
I based. I don't really think about because I'm a man and I'm a father. I have to do these things, but I do embrace the role of being a man from what the Bible says. So being a protector, a provider, all those things that it comes with. And so, yeah, I'm passionate about providing for my family. Made some mistakes, trying to get better, but not just providing financial, but providing emotional support, making sure that they, that I support them. I'm coaching and things like that. And so I know a lot of people don't talk about they just talk about providing financially, but nah, man, we should be providing support and supporting them in how they feelings, even when we have to check them and stuff like that, disciplining our kids. And so yeah, I fully embrace it. I never thought about separating it. I think it's just part of being a man is you're a father, you're a husband. It all comes with it. I think if you was to define a man, outside of his genitals, right? There's certain characteristics about you that make you a man, right? When we say godly man or kingdom man, what does that mean? There's characteristics that we have to have in place or be practicing in order to say that, that's who I am, right? If you're a kingdom man, okay, what is a kingdom man? The kingdom man is, number one, it's a guy who is a male, but then what makes him a kingdom man is, does he love Jesus? Is he practicing and walking out his faith? Does he read his Bible? Does he practice what he preaches? Is he a provider? Blah blah blah. Like, there's characteristics that comes with it.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, we're gonna jump into that in a moment. But I do want to share this one last thought from that same podcast episode that I was talking about. Relationship problems. We all have them. Everybody has them, whether you're married or not. They report in that episode that 69% of all problems in a relationship are perpetual, meaning they span the entire length of the relationship. And I can potentially give you some examples. They didn't go too deep into it. I guess you got to read their books in order to understand what it is they mean by that specifically. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you see any perpetual things in your marriage that just continue to keep up happening? How do you deal with those? That kind of question.
Situation. I think those things, there are problems that will continue if you don't deal with it. So you're either going to let them keep going, like sweeping them under the rug and not addressing them, or eventually, like, those people get divorced. If those people stay together and they don't deal with those problems, then it's always a recurring problem, right? Like, if you talk about like finances, if you and your partner never get on the same page about your finances, then you're always going to have these issues when it comes to money, and then you're never going to be on the same page, and you're going to keep going through the same cycle. You might have some high seasons, and then you have some low seasons, but it'll always be an issue whether you guys are communicating who's buying what, who's spending money where. It can always be a problem. So if you don't deal with those things in a healthy way, then I think those things will stay in your marriage forever. You'll get so focused on like the good times and trying to constantly relive those good times, and you'll just that's not a big deal. We'll deal with that later. Or he's just like that, or she's just like that. But it's really, it's an issue that is affecting your marriage. That's why I think having mature couples that can mentor you are so important. And you got to be honest and transparent about these things. Otherwise, you have to give people the authority to be able to speak into your life, into your marriage. Otherwise, it's never going to get better. I think everybody should at one point in time sit down with your pastors and be like, what do you see? Like, what are some flaws or some things in our marriage that you see that we can that we need to work on?
Yeah.
And so having people that don't necessarily really see you inside of your house, but when you come to church, like, things eventually start to come out. When you first start going to a new church, you're in there, you got your Sunday's best on, you guys are like, giving each other little smooches and hey babe and all this other stuff. And then eventually the mask starts to fall off, or it gets real dusty, or it starts to crack. And then eventually, things start to come out true color. You can't fake the funk forever. So if you are faking the funk, eventually you're going to be exposed, and then it's going to be like, man, I thought y'all had the perfect marriage. Like, no. So giving people the authority and the opportunity to speak into your marriage and just sit down with you and be real, and not taking it as like, they some haters, or they just want us to break up or whatever. But really, let me know where I can grow, or what are you seeing, and allow them to share.
That's cool. No, that's good. That's really good. That wasn't the answer I was looking for, but
we'll settle for that one.
That was all right. No, yeah. So like one of the things that they mentioned. So I guess the real idea is maybe, or one of the thoughts that I have is that maybe the idea of there being problems isn't what we should be focused on, right? If 69% of all the problems in a relationship are perpetual and continue to happen, maybe we have the idea of problems all wrong, like, I don't know. I'm sure that there's something about you that still persists to this day that maybe still tick your wife off.
Oh, yeah. You're going to have those.
Yeah.
You're going to have I do not like when she does that, but that's what she does. And it's not it's not a make or break for the relationship.
Yeah, none of these.
It's just something that I just don't like about. Oh yeah, you have those. My bad. I didn't fully grab.
It's not that these problems are things that will break the relationship. They could, right? Like if you're saying you don't have that communication, but I think that's where they were going for. That it's like if you don't address these things, or if you guys don't know these things about each other, or you don't learn not to necessarily live with it, but communicate about it, then, or even heal from it, right? Because that could also cause resentment in some aspects. So
some people, they like, I don't really like how, he comes home from playing basketball and he takes his shoes off and his feet stink. I can't be with a person who feet stink.
Right.
It's like, Fam was playing game 7 of the finals. Like, his feet probably gonna stink if he was hooping. He had those shoes on all day.
Game 7 of the finals is crazy.
It's like, I think he could just, does he take a shower? Yeah, he takes a shower, but his shoes, like, okay, well, can he like put his shoes like somewhere else or leave them outside? Like, is it that big of a deal? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's super small. You know what I'm saying? I think you're always gonna have those things that you don't like about your spouse. I don't know nobody who likes everything about their spouse. I've never met anybody like that, who's like, I love everything about my spouse. I could tell you all the things my wife doesn't like about me. It's not that she doesn't, these are not her things. So she doesn't like that. Like, I'm into video games. I currently don't own one, but I enjoy playing video games. I have plans to probably buy a PS5 or something like that, to be able to play with the kids and stuff like that. My wife's not into video games.
You got a gaming PC right here, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on.
Anyway. I have to figure out how to set all this stuff up. Anyway, we'll talk offline. And then like, she's not into like roller coasters. And she'll go to the amusement park, but she wants to go for like funnel cakes and just for like the family experience. But she's not getting on any roller coasters.
Same.
Me, I'm like, bro, I'm not paying $65 for you to go to Six Flags for you not to ride no roller coasters and just walk around and then eat funnel cakes. Like, no, we gonna get on these roller coasters. If you ain't ride no roller coasters, stay home. You know what I'm saying? And like, I'm a daredevil. Like, I plan on jumping out of a plane this year. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully some friends, hint Adam, and some other people can come, Ray, can join me and
you pass me on that.
Jumping out of a plane. It's something I want to do. She's like, it's a thing of my, what's the word? Adventurous spirits. She don't really like it.
Yeah.
She's not into any of those things.
That's so interesting.
But it's not a make or break, like for our marriage.
Right.
If anything, I feel like I keep actually, my wife has become the planning out the events parents. And I just kind of like go with the flow. But yeah, because my things be like over the top. But now we got like 3 kids that are like me, so we'll see how
that is so interesting that you bring up that your wife doesn't like your adventurous spirit, because I want to say like a couple years ago, and this isn't even in the prompt or in my questions, but a couple years ago, I want to say more like a year ago, I was like, going on 6-7 years of being single. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, is it me? Is it them? Like, what am I doing wrong? Or what is unattractive about me that doesn't allow these women to? Because I would go on.
I mean, he's on camera. I was a good looking dude. You know what I'm saying? I'm letting him finish.
So I was like thinking about like, what is it? The attractiveness doesn't necessarily have to be like physical attraction, right? People can be attracted to your personality or the things that you do or whatever. So I wasn't like looking at it from a vanity point of view, but like, so what I started to do is think about like all the men in my life who are in relationships or who have entertained a lot of women, right? Because it's not necessarily that I'm not in a relationship. I just don't feel like I was entertaining enough women in a sense, because in order to get into a relationship, you need to be around the people that you want to get into a relationship with, right? That's like step 1, go where the women are if you want a woman.
And put yourself out there.
Exactly. So it's like, well, maybe not what's prohibiting me from doing that, but what is like unattractive that maybe I could do differently to become more attractive. So I started looking at all the men around me, our friend George, my brother Andrew, my cousin, all the men who have been around women or who have a woman or married or whatever. And the one common denominator that I found was that they all have a spirit of adventure. You are a daredevil. You just mentioned that. You like to go and have fun, do things. Andrew, he used to like go to the club, and whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I'm not trying to debate that. I'm just trying to get to the essence of what that common denominator is. It's not that I also don't have that adventurous spirit. It's just that sometimes I would much rather stay home than go out and do something, So I don't have it to the volume or to the extent that most of the guys around me do. My friend too, one of my best friends, my best friend, Louis,
your breast
my
friend?
best friend Louis. He's a very adventurous guy, right? He took his girl out on New Year's to like a circus show. Wouldn't have even been on my top thing to like take a girl to for New Year's. Like it's so and I don't want to put his stuff out there. I'll put it like this: he's been single for far less than I have, and he's already been in far more relationships than I have in the past 7 years. So it's like,
wow,
why is that? And it came down to like, well, he just has a spirit of adventure, I think, is potentially what it could be. So it's interesting the fact that, and I guess I want to know, my point in bringing that up is I want to know what makes your wife tick then, because I love your wife. Your wife is amazing. She is a great personality to be around. I see her like a sister, very intrigued by a lot of the things that her and I have in common. One of them being not wanting to be on roller coasters. So maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like the people who have a spirit of adventure are calling out the non-spirit of adventure in other people. So like those two opposites attract, and maybe that's something that I should be looking for, is that spirit of adventure. But
everybody that I know who's married, bro, they're like, I won't say the polar opposite of their wife, but they're opposite.
Yeah.
Right. One is either like super chill, and the other one's like super like loud, outgoing. Like for instance, me and my wife, I'm a social butterfly, and she's very like chill. If she didn't have to talk to people as much, she probably wouldn't. She probably had like a couple people that she, talks to. She'll probably stay home and decorate the house and look at TikTok videos and stuff like that. I'm very like outgoing. Like I'll go to people's houses. We'll hang out like all day, all night. You know what I'm saying? But she has a limit. And she prefers to stay home. I only prefer to stay home when I'm broke. So
maybe that's why I prefer to stay home, because I'm broke.
When I'm broke, I don't want to do like nothing. I'm not thinking about adventures. I'm not thinking about even like things that are free or really cheap. Like I don't think about nothing. I'm like, bro, we ain't got no money. Everybody gonna sit still. Y'all going to eat them ramen noodles and them hot dogs, and that's it until we can get some money.
Right.
And so I have a very, much like, I don't want to do nothing if I don't have any money. My wife she could think of like very simple things. Like, well, let's go for a family drive. Let's, go to this neighborhood and walk around. The weather's nice. Let's do that. Little simple things, right? That she could think of to like get us out of the house. She's very big on like family fun day. And then, so we're different in that. I just lost my train of thought. I'm so sorry. What were we talking about? I looked at this sign and then everything just went blank. My bad.
You said that couples aren't the polar opposites, but there's, I guess, similar.
Yeah. So most couples that I know, they're opposite of each other, right? Again, one is very outspoken, other one is chill, laid back. One prefers to be out, the other one prefers to stay home. But then as you learn your spouse, you begin to, marriage is me serving my wife and my wife serving me. So how can I serve her in her, say lack of interest? I don't say it in a bad way, but her lack of interest in like, being around people and being a social butterfly. It's okay. I know she had a 3-hour limit. I'm gonna have fun, do whatever for 3 hours, and then we're gonna be out of here. You know what I'm saying? Me and my wife, we like game plan for that stuff. I'm like, all right, what you thinking? 3 hours, 4 hours? What you think?
What's the plan of attack?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because if it was me, I'd be there until it's over.
Yeah.
And if it never ends, I'll be there. And so
He'll be there till midnight and it closed at 9.
Yeah. And so I'm like, how do I serve my wife? My wife serves me by coming alongside of me, and even if she might not necessarily wants to be there, she's gonna come and support me, and she's going to talk and mingle and make friends. And the weird thing is with my wife is that everybody loves her. She got all these followers on Instagram and TikTok, and she naturally draws people to her. It's a gift. I believe that it's a divine gift that she has. It's like attraction. She can draw people to her. People prefer to be around her more than they prefer being around me.
Yeah.
Adam, yeah.
No, not yeah, but I get what you mean. Not yeah, but yeah. You know what I mean?
And so, but she's not like crazy about that stuff.
Right.
She just got on what's that new app?
Blue Sky?
Lemonade?
I don't know.
Lemonade,
There's so many
lemon lime, something. It's one of them lemons.
Lemon lime.
It's a
Bright?
new app. She just got on there. She's been on there for like a couple months. She's already got like 4,000 followers. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
I'm like, what the heck? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so she can easily like use that to like blow up her pay, her gift to blow up her pay, but she doesn't even fully operate in that. You know what I'm saying? I don't even think she's tapped into even 50% of her potential with her gift that God has given her.
Potential is a dangerous word.
Huh?
Potential is a dangerous word, but that's a different podcast.
Yeah, it's a different podcast. But all that to say is that opposites attract. And so I'm very much like, she's, very much likes, people like hearing her speak and like hearing her takes. They don't really like mine. They prefer her over me.
Doing a podcast.
And then I'm doing a podcast that
about your takes.
And so yeah, people are opposites. Most opposites attract. And then you got to work out like the likes and the dislikes, and what do we enjoy doing, and then what do I enjoy doing that you don't enjoy doing? What do you enjoy doing that I don't like? And then there is the compromise and the serving each other that takes place. Point.
Yeah, man, that's it's really good stuff. You just keep dropping things of knowledge that I've obviously been thinking about that for like a long time, and I write about it in the book. Gotta buy the book when it comes out. Hopefully it comes out at some point soon. We don't know, but I've noticed also, like in a lot of dating apps, a lot of these women are very adventurous, which I guess begs the question, then why are they on a dating app and not just going around in real life, going on adventures, meeting men? But I don't know.
That's the whole thing. Like,
I guess that's their...
Most likely, well, at least back in the day, it's probably changed now. You're going to meet your spouse in the circles that you're around. So back in the day, it used to be like you met your spouse at school, at church, or at work. Right. Or you might meet them at the gym if you go there, often.
The third space.
Yeah. So people need to, whatever consistent space you're in, if you're a Christian, right, which most of this audiences are Christian, we're believers, you in church. Are you not attracted or interested in anybody in your church? I just was talking to a young man a little while ago. I ain't gonna say his name because I want to put his business out there. But I had the
Tanner.
Chad. And I had to tell him like he was interested in this girl, and I was like, dude, go up and tell her. Yeah. Invite her to get some coffee. And hey, you know what? I think you're a very beautiful young woman. And like they serve together. So it's like y'all go to the same church, y'all serve in the same ministry, like that's outside of your church. So you get to see her 2 days out of the week, right? Y'all got some of the same passions. Y'all can at least understand each other as far as from a biblical context, because you guys go to church together and then you guys serve in the same ministry. Hey, cuz, go talk to her. Could. Like, what you doing?
Hey, could.
I had to like get real stern with him. Like, if you don't go ask her out.
Right.
And, they've been on a few dates now.
You're about to pull out a red from that 70s show. You know what I'm saying?
So it's like, man, forget the girl that's like you're really interested in, but then she's like she don't make no time for you.
Yeah.
Forget her.
Uh-huh.
Go holler at her. If she say, yeah, she's down to go on a date, go on that date.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
You got that right there.
Yeah.
I don't understand these young churches. That's a whole nother podcast. I've shared my opinion on that with these, 20s and 30s, early 30-year-olds not talking to people in the church and being weirded out.
Why do you think that is? Like, what do you think is holding it back? And I already kind of know the answer, so I'm going to ask a follow-up question, so make it short.
I just think people are timid. Fear of rejection, or I don't want to be the guy that you like this girl, but then you like that girl. Like, bruh, it's okay. You go to a multicultural church. There's going to be different flavors.
Different flavors.
There's nothing wrong. And I've asked women, I'll make my answer short. I've asked women, do you guys think men are bad if they do that? Like, is he creep if he goes and is he a creep? If he talks to you, or if he says, hey, I'm interested, and you say, no, I'm not interested, but then he talks to maybe your friend or a close acquaintance that you may know, or somebody in church that you may know, is that? And most of the women said no. Because we didn't date. He asked me, I said no, and he looking for a wife. I'm just not the one. Go see if the other chick is.
What's crazy is I know some women who would have been like, yeah, why would he go after my friend if he's going after me? So why would you like her after you like me? It's dumb. It's really dumb. But in terms of the fear aspect, what happened?
Immaturity.
Yeah, no, for sure.
We got to grow up.
That's exactly what it is. In terms of the fear aspect of that, as men, we're taught not to fear growing up, a lot of us. Even I was taught not to fear, and I don't say that because I'm not a man or I don't identify as a man, because I most definitely do. But I would say that I guess I grew up in a lot of a different environment where I was maybe not advertently taught not to fear, but it was like in the air, like men aren't allowed to fear, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why I guess I put myself sort of as an inclusive outsider is because, which is a great way of putting that, is because I know a lot of people will look at the way that I grew up and the way that I express my feelings and how, I guess, in touch with my feelings I am, and they would be like, oh, that's, back in the day, that's gay. You know what I'm saying?
Soft.
Right, you're soft.
Ninja over there.
So
then there's some feelings.
Yeah, and I'm not afraid to cry. Most men will be like, man can't cry. Yeah. But it's like, all right, there's a whole other podcast on that. We kind of talked a little bit about it on the dating panel situation, but even in the Bible, it says 365 times, do not fear, so it's like, what is that? First of all, what does that mean? And then second of all, do you fear anything, and how do you overcome those feelings of fear?
Man, so I think first we need to understand what's the context of when it says do not fear. Mm-hmm. What is it talking about? Is it saying do not fear anything, or is it do not fear your life situations? Because God is saying, I am going to take care of you. Mm. Most. I haven't read all 365 of those verses. Mm-hmm. And then that could probably be a whole devotional that I do for the rest of the year. It's 365 days on fear. But do not fear. When we think about Joshua and God telling Joshua, hey, do not fear. I am with you. God is telling him, hey, you don't need to fear these men. You don't need to fear the situation. I'm with you. Mm-hmm. Go, take that land, do what you got to do. I got you. And probably most of the times that we see in the Bible when God is telling us do not fear, it's because we're fear of our situation. Mm. And there's another aspect of fear where fear protects us. Mm. Without fear, man, I would be like, I don't know if I'd be here right now talking to you without fear.
Yeah.
And so I think as men, there needs to be an aspect of us that is fearless, mm-hmm. right? But I think we're gonna grow in that.
I don't even know that I would say that it's fearlessness, right? And I think saying that, and I don't mean to put down anything you were just saying, because I agree to a certain extent, but I think in the face of fear, doing it anyways, right? It's like in The Lion King, right? Simba, when he was younger, in the very beginning, he goes and he goes into the he goes outside of the Pride Lands to where the hyenas are, and he's like, I just wanted to be, fearless like you. I didn't want to be scared like you are. He's like, I'm scared all the time.
Yeah.
But I have to do what I have to do, you know?
Right. That was gonna be my next point is
okay.
once we
let me not interrupt.
once we like, for me, right? The reason why, and I've been trying to, share this with my son and with all my kids actually, I'm like, you guys haven't been outside.
Yeah.
Like when I was young, like I was all over the city outside. I was in my neighborhood running around. And so I never feared what was outside. I already knew, and I knew how to handle myself, not just from fighting, but I knew how to move around. I knew what neighborhoods to go into. I was pretty street smart as a kid. You have to just do it. Like what Mufasa was telling Simba. Like, you fear it because you don't understand it, or you don't know what the outcome is going to be.
Right.
And that's with everything in life. We don't like when you get, there's a fear now that I probably hear this the most when it comes to relationships is that men, they fear like, what if this is not the one and I just wasted 3 months or 6 months? And it's like, man, you can't go into a relationship with that defeated mindset, because it's always going to be like, well, she's not the one, because you guys are going to have issues. You have to learn how to work through those issues. Once you learn how to work through those issues, man, that fear of if she's not the one, or is she going to, if she's here for me, that's going to go away.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's always fear, right? When I'm about to get up and preach, there's always a nervousness. There's a fear like of I might forget something. Man, did I studied, man, I put a lot of work in and I studied, but did I study enough? There's always fear. And then I do it and I'm like, I did it. And so the next time it's less fear.
Yeah.
And it's less fear. And so that's with everything. And like once you do something, you got to just take that step and do it. And then, the fear goes away. It's like when kids get shots, you go to the doctor, they're so scared. No, it's gonna hurt. Oh no. And then they're like, he's like, look at me. All right, look at me. The doctor tries to do whatever they try to do to make the kid distracted. Then they poke him. Then once the kid realizes like, oh, that was it. Next time, they go to the doctor, but it might be a little scared. Like they don't want to get the shot. But over time, as they grow, all right, go ahead, do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So.
Exposure therapy.
Huh?
Exposure therapy.
What's that?
Exposure therapy?
Is that with the needles?
No, it's exposure. That's something else. That's acupuncture. Exposure therapy is when you begin to expose yourself to the thing that you're threatened by until you're no longer threatened by it.
Yeah.
That's actually funny that you bring that up, because in the Jordan Peterson actually made this correlation from a story in the Bible when the Jews were in the desert, right? And I don't remember the whole idea behind the story, but there was snakes in the camp. God sent some snakes to like punish them or something like that, curse them in some way. And then people started dying, right? And so in order to in order to save them from those snakes, what he decided to do was he instructed Moses to make a bronze serpent and put it over the staff, and then hold that staff up in the air. And then whenever the Israelites would look at the serpent, their poison would stop running through their bodies, or they would be healed or something like that. And in a sense, the way that Jordan Peterson put it is that in and of itself is a depiction of exposure therapy. You're exposing yourself enough times to the problem to the point where you now have the solution for it, right? And then even we can take that even into Christ, where he even says, I am the serpent on the bronze serpent, right, on the staff of Moses.
Yeah.
And so the same way that Moses instructed them to keep their eyes on the bronze serpent, Christ also tells us, keep your eyes on me. You know what I mean? Keep your gaze on me, because he's gone through all the things that we've gone through, You know, he's gone through he's struggled through everything that we will ever struggle through. So he is the answer, right?
Yeah.
To be exposed to danger is to be exposed to Christ. Another bar.
Adam dropping bars. What I was thinking through was when I was boxing. So I boxed for a little bit, and when I first started boxing, that was like extremely. I didn't go to that level, but I was like nervous. Like even with boxing gloves, like you're afraid to get hit, and so you have to learn like how to get hit, and you have to build up a tolerance for getting hit, because you're gonna get hit,
right?
And so once you understand that I'm gonna get hit, but there's a way that I can protect myself, or that I can alter, and lessen the blow, the fear of getting hit goes away. So you just have to get in the ring and you have to practice it. And so everybody, everybody experience fear. You got this dude in front of you. He look like, man, he's super jacked. He probably can knock me out. I'm pretty sure he can knock me out. What am I gonna do to not get hit? I know how it feels to get hit. I know how it feels to get knocked down. I've been through this before. I've been training for this. Now it's time to do it. You know what I'm saying? And that was somewhat of a speech that I had to give to the boys that I coach. They were like nervous. I'm like, man, you guys been playing this game. We practice. I know it's people watching. Go out here and hoop, right? Leave it all on the court. But you guys know what to do. No matter if people are looking at you. I know there's some fear. You don't want to be embarrassed, blah, blah, blah. But you just have to go out here and do it. And so, and that's the same thing with fear. And so that's why for me, I just typically like just dive in, because I'm like, once I do it, I'll get it. I'll be nervous. Right. I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to experience the same thing with like conversations with my wife. I'm like, man, I don't feel like doing this. It's not like I'm scared of like her or whatever, but there is like a fear of like, do I really want to? This could lead to an argument.
Right.
This could lead to something big. Do I want to?
Fear of the outcome.
Let me, let me seek Jesus. How do I word this? Give me the words to say. Guide me, man. What does Scripture say about this? And let me, prayerfully go into this meeting with my wife.
Earlier, you mentioned how guys sometimes take a moment to, they fear the outcome of what might happen if they go and approach a woman.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I'm there at the same time. I know exactly what that feels like. And even to this day, if you ask me to go and approach a woman, I probably won't do it. I've had to also expose myself to go and do that. And I'm not going to tell you how or why I did that, but I did it. It's still hard no matter how many times you get into it. But also, one of the things, the fear of it was the outcome. Like, what if I get rejected, right?
Yeah.
What if I am told, oh, you're a creep, whatever. So there's two thoughts that come to my mind. The first one was when you were saying that, I immediately had a thought of something that I heard when I was on my way here, right? I love listening to Jordan Peterson, right? I think a lot of people in this day and age do. I'm not saying that he's perfect, and there are some ways that he is imperfect, and maybe he doesn't have he's like 98% there, and it's just like the 2% that's like, okay, do you know? But so I digress. One of the things that he said in the podcast that I was listening to was, if you vow to follow the path of truth, you have to let go of if you vow to follow the path of the truth, you have to let go of the predictability of the outcome.
Say that one more time.
If you vow to follow the path of the truth, you have to let go of the predictability of the outcome. So you can't try and predict what the outcome might be. If you are following after truth, you just got to go for it. You just got to do it, right? Even the Bible says, taste and see that the Lord is good. That's like, I don't know if this is going to be good or not. And as someone who's
going to a wine tasting, what's that? Wine tasting event with Jesus.
Wine tasting event. I like that. I mean, that's probably going to be some good wine. But one of the things that stood out to me about that, when he said that, that's my immediate thought. My immediate thought was, taste and see that the Lord is good. And as someone who has struggled with food, because I've been I'm just gonna be completely honest. I've been struggling with ARFID my entire life, which is a food intake disorder. So I don't eat all the foods that maybe I should eat, right? Or I'm very picky about the way that I do eat for reasons, right? And a lot of the times I don't taste something because I'm scared of what might happen if I do and I don't like it or whatever. You know what I mean? So that's when, that's what stood out to me, right? When I heard those two things. First of all, the first one being from Jordan Peterson, and then the verse that came to mind, that just, I don't know why, but those two things brought that idea to my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. And how you been doing with that, by the way? Sidebar.
There's still a lot of work to be done. I'll put it like that. But I mean, obviously, fear is, I think, at the root cause of that, right? So the more I deal with the fear that's going on inside and notice it, and work through it, not necessarily to diminish it, but to be like, okay, I'm fearing. Why am I fearing? Let's figure that out, and then let's move on. You know, The more I do that, I think the more a lot of the other stuff in my life will begin to, I guess, kind of diminish in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your word can be, if I was to give you the words that you just said and put it on a TV show, it'd be my 600-pound life. Not to shame them people, right? I got some weight that I got to lose that I'm working on as well. But a lot of those people, they're scared to take that step because of the pain.
The amount of work that needs to be done.
The amount of work that needs to be done. They think man, this is going to be an extremely long journey, right? And for some of them, it will be. But, and so they're like, is this going to even work? So I think getting past the first part, because a lot of them are in pain when they walk, when they stand. And so they're
out of breath getting up.
They have to push through all that just to even get to the step of even, starting to, take in the diet and the food and go through all this process. And so there's a lot of different stages of fear. And a lot of us experience that in our lives. I wish I didn't experience some of the fear that I experienced as early in my life as I did. And so, but yeah, it's been, I'm sorry. I thought I heard my kids outside for a second. My bad. It just threw me completely off. And so, yeah, man, once we get past, fear, fear stops us from doing a lot of things. It's such a crazy thing that's running rampant in our culture today. It's not just, do it and get over with, or it's a lot of fear. It's a lot of fear. People scared of rejection. People scared to, man, is this going to work? People scared of, is this the right plan? Whether that's, dieting or weight loss, fitness, different things. And so, I think that's probably why he says, do not fear so many times in the Bible. You said 365 of them. He probably says it so much because it's the biggest thing that we deal with is fear.
We struggle with. Yeah. I kind of bring it up a little bit in the dating panel episode that we did, where it's that could also just be a sense of emotional color blindness, where if you are fearing something and you don't know all of the emotions that you're feeling inside, you don't know them individualistically and how they coexist with one another.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can feel two different emotions or two similar negative emotions, but we only feel them through one of the two emotions, right? So if we're not allowed to fear, but we're allowed to be angry, we're going to feel the fear through the anger, right? So a lot of the times our anger is actually fear, insecurity, hurt, sadness, whatever the case may be. right? So that's kind of the essence of emotional color blindness. And one of the ways to do that is to kind of just train yourself on the emotions that you're feeling, and feel through them, not try to suppress them, because that's what creates the emotional color blindness to begin with. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, I think you're ending on a really good point. A lot of emotion things I haven't dived into probably as much as I could, but I'm in school to be a counselor, so I'm pretty sure I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I've got some more questions. I don't know if you wanted me to ask those or if you wanted to wrap up here.
We got a little bit more time.
Let's go into your fatherhood. Take a step back, because I think fear is something obviously that you got to train your children to get through. But I guess I'll take even one more step back. And when we were talking about your wife, for some reason the question that popped up into my head was, can Proverbs 31 be applied to men?
Can Proverbs 31 be applied to men?
We hear all the time, be a Proverbs 31 woman, right?
But it's like, for the listeners, somebody who might have never, let me pull up Proverbs 31 if I can. Let me see, man. I think we gotta. How long is Proverbs 31? I mean,
it's like 26 verses, I think.
We're not gonna read all those verses. Yeah, that's a lot of verses.
It's 31.
But I think the thing with the women starts at verse 10, though. So, a wife of noble character, who can find? She is worth far more than rubies. Her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. She brings him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She selects wool and flax. She works in eager hands. She is like, I think there's definitely some things in here that men should be doing, right? We should be adding value to our wives, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Bible said that a man that finds a wife finds a good thing.
Right.
But I think once we do find that good thing, man, we need to be building them up, right? I think we need to set our wives up to be this, to be the Proverbs 31 woman. Because she got to this place because, man, her husband provided a home for her. She was able to raise her kids. And then now the kids are older. Now she's able to go and work in the market, and she's able to be a blessing to others. Now the kids are old enough where they're either in school or maybe some of them are even out of the house, and she's able to do these things. She's able to work, in the market. So in our context, she would be able to go and get a job and display her gifts, whether she's serving in the church or she get a full-time job doing something that she's really passionate about. She's able to do these things because her husband provided for her the space to do them. And he built her up to have the confidence to go out and do these things. So your question was, can man display, or can man be a Proverbs 31 man?
Yeah, can Proverbs 31 be applied to men? Can they learn from?
I think they can. The first thing that I think men can learn from when they read this is, are you setting your wife up to be this? Are you setting your wife up to be this? Because men be like, I'm looking for a Proverbs 31 woman. Well, she might not be there yet, but does that mean that you can't marry her yet? Are you in a position to put her, to have her grow into that? Will you provide? So it says here, man, that she provides. She gets up a while and it is still night. She provides food for her family. Well, first of all, when they say here, I'm pretty sure like she's making the food. Did you got a job that you providing the food? Like you able to go buy food, right? She's able to go buy food with the money that you're working, that you bringing in. And so, it says, she speaks with wisdom, and faithful instructions is on her tongue, right? Have you given her the opportunity, the space to, further her education? Are you guys having biblical conversations together? Where's the wisdom coming from? What wisdom is she putting out there? You know what I'm saying? And so I think for the men, I would just say, are you in a position, and do you have the intentions to help your wife grow into this Proverbs 31 woman? Because she might not be there, you might not be there yet, but you guys should be growing together, right? If you marry your youth, like, you're not gonna have it all together, and I think that's probably it's one of the biggest issues in the dating culture today, is that they're looking for like the finished piece,
right? The finished product.
Yeah, they want it like, all right, man, look, it's gonna be just like this, and this is how it's gonna be forever. And it's like, no, right? You guys are gonna have to learn each other and grow together.
Right.
You're not gonna love everything about her. She's not gonna love everything about you. But what are the deal breakers?
Right.
And can you guys grow together? I think, I think that's where a lot of guys that I talk to, at least, they're missing that.
Staying on that, I guess, theme of dating, or even just being a man in general, not necessarily on dating. I mean, this could also apply to you being a father, whatever you might do. But if you could go back and give yourself 3 rules for life, like let's say you're 17, 16 years old, you go back to your 16-year-old self, what 3 rules will you give your past self about being a father, just existing of a man? Like, what would you give yourself? What would you tell yourself?
16-year-old Derry, thinking about being a father. 3 rules for being a father,
or just being a man in general. It doesn't even.
Well, I would say one is, finish what you start. So I would have finished school. I finished high school. I would have finished college the first time I went, and I would have got my degree, so that I would have been able to, buy a house sooner, and some of the financial struggles that I've experienced, I wouldn't have wanted to experience. Like, we know life happens, the market crashes, whatever, but I would have learned more about how to use my money. So I would have learned, how to steward my finances better, and then how to steward my time. So finish what I start, and then steward my finances and steward my time. Well, I would have learned how to do those things when I was young. That would have helped me a lot as an adult.
Yeah. That's cool. I like that a lot. That's a good answer. And I feel like I go through that all the time. I keep constantly asking myself, if I could go back and change 3 things, what would it be? And I think the time and money is the 2 biggest things for me as well. I guess we can end on this one. This one's kind of big. There's some other ones that I wanted to get into, but I don't know that we're going to have the time. So we'll just end on this one because it's also kind of just big. And I think we can talk for this can be a whole podcast episode all on its own.
How long have we been going right now?
2 hours and 13.
Okay.
Do we still got time?
Yeah.
All right. There seems to be a lot of women nowadays struggling with their relationships with their fathers. I know a few women off the top of my head, I can name them, but I won't. Some of these women are very close to me, and it angers me as a man who wants to have a daughter at some point in my life, because it's like these guys are just messing up. They got something that other people want, and they're not stewarding it properly. And I also don't just think about that as a man about fathers to their daughters, but also men to other men about their girlfriends or the relationships that they're in. Because I've been single for so long, right, that I hear stories of all these guys just kind of messing it up. And I'm like, pay attention. Y'all are missing it, right? Yeah. Y'all are being too selfish. But besides that, so these daughters have spoken to their fathers, right? They try to have conversations about like, I want more of a relationship with you, but it just doesn't seem like you want that. And they can't seem to get him to budge. What are some pieces of advice you can give these women from the perspective of a father? And then also, what would you tell these fathers from the perspective of, I would say, a very loving father that pays attention to his kids and will probably upkeep your relationship with your daughters when they move out?
Yeah, man, that's rough, man. My heart goes out to those ladies who are experiencing their biological father not wanting to deal with them. For me, man, when I was young, it took me about 6 years into my walk with Jesus to get over this, and it was because I didn't have a consistent father in my life. My father wasn't consistent. I didn't know how to relate to God as Father. So I struggled with like praying, Father God or, Heavenly Father. It would just be like Lord or Jesus.
Yeah.
I never would start my prayers off with
King.
Heavenly Father. Yeah, and so because I didn't have this relationship with my biological father, it was hard for me to have a relationship and view God as a loving father.
Right.
It was hard for me. I mean, even now I sometimes struggle with just certain, aspects of fatherhood because I didn't see it growing up.
What aspects are those, if you don't mind me
like connecting, like ways to connect with my kids.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what do I say in this moment? Like, and I'm like, well, what did my father say to me? And it's like, he didn't say nothing. So it's like, I got to figure this out. You know what I'm saying? So, there's still times where I struggle, especially with like new situations, new things come up. I'm like, man, how do I respond to this? And I got to reach out to some other men.
Yeah.
And then, they help me, walk me through it. But, man, and so, yeah, those ladies that are, having those issues, man, my heart goes out to you. I pray that your relationship with your father would grow and that God would bring healing, and bring you guys back together. But advice to the fathers.
Well, what would your advice be to the women first? I know you're saying your heart goes out, but like, what is something that they could do practically?
I would tell them first just to continue to pray for your dads. Man, as men, we deal with a lot of different emotions, a lot of different things, especially when we feel like we failed and we dropped the ball. It's really hard to like, I ain't been in her life in X amount of time, so I'm gonna just stay away because she's probably better off without me, or dealing with that shame and that guilt of like not being there. And then, there's other parts where you just feel like, man, I'm not a good dad. Like there's other guys that are better than me at this. You can talk to them. Like I have nothing to offer you. And so those dads could be dealing with some of those things. So I would say to, first like pray for them, right? Pray for them. And then just continue to remind them, man, that I love you. I would love to have you in my life. And allow God to just do the work. It's really, I don't think there's really anything you can say besides just letting him know that you miss him and that you want to be with him. And, if encourage him, like you guys know more about, where they're at in their life. Are they just dudes that are just like, I'm living, I'm out here, I'm, chasing women, I'm chasing money or whatever. And they kind of got it together in that area of like finances, but they're like emotionally just detached from, these things. Be praying, man, that God would meet them and that they would recognize that they got daughters, that need that love of a man, the love that a father provides. Or they might be just, like I said, in that state of just brokenness of where they're like, I don't know how or what to say.
Right.
And they're dealing with a lot of shame and guilt. So, there's grace on both sides, but just be praying for them.
Yeah.
Really don't know. I mean, and I haven't talked to my biological father in like 2 years.
Yeah.
There's no text or phone call, and I know it's difficult. Me and him, when we first relationship first started getting back together, he told me, well, I told him, because I had the kids, and my kids love their grandfather. Like when he comes around, he's a joy to be around. But I was like, hey, don't promise them things, because he had promised them that he was going to come see them or something, to take them somewhere. And I was like, don't do that, because either you're going to be in their life consistently or you ain't going to be in that at all. Like, I'm not going to let you do this, to my kids. And so I had to tell him, you know what I'm saying? And so he kind of backed off. I think he loved being around his grandkids, but I think my dad just struggles with like being consistent in relationships. He's not married. He's been having an on and off girlfriend for like 20 some years or whatever, probably longer than that. And it's just like in that area of relationships, it's like outside of his mother, like there's no consistency. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to like women, he's always moving around. And so that could be a thing too, them not knowing how to
relate to women, maybe.
Relate to women. And because of the things that they do with women, how they treat them, they could be like, man, how can I face my daughter and I, treat these women like that? You know what I'm saying? So that could be a thing too. There's a lot of different, different variables that can be, but yeah, just pray for them. And then the men, I would just say, man, just as a father, learn how to receive that love from your daughter, right? Recognize where you are. And so there might need to be a coming to Jesus moment that you might have if you're out here living, this crazy la vida loca life. Or you might just be in a place of just shame and guilt and you don't really know how to ask her for forgiveness, accept the father's forgiveness first, and then you can go to your daughters and receive their forgiveness. And, day by day, step by step. It doesn't have to be a whole thing. Well, man, we talk every day for 4 hours. Start off with once a month or once a week or whatever, and continue to build from there.
Yeah. You
know what I'm saying? When, it's going to be a challenge to like go around, especially if they're young and the mother's still there, you got to go to the house or something like that. It's rough. And so, but you gotta make those steps to build that relationship. It's going to be hard work, right?
Yeah.
Again, back to fear, being scared.
Right.
To like, you're scared of what people going to say about you. You're scared of how this could turn out. What if I mess up again? All those type of things, man. Is the father an addict? You know what I'm saying? They're on drugs or the alcoholic. It's a lot of different things, man. And so, just keep doing those things, man. Submitting them to Jesus, interceding for them. And that's it.
Yeah, I have a thought when you were in the middle of talking. I thought about maybe something practically that these women can do. And I guess also something that the men can do is just like exposure therapy at the end of the day, but specifically the women of these fathers. Because one of the issues that I think that happens is like there's a cycle, right? Where like, I don't want to call him because he doesn't call me. Well, I don't call her because she doesn't call me. And it's like, all right, one of you has to break the cycle.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of the times we want the adult in the relationship to break the cycle, especially when it's in the case of a son or daughter with the mom or dad, right? The older person should be more mature and take more responsibility of the situation, but that doesn't always tend to happen, right? And even in marriage, I know a lot of the times people have that issue. I read the book, and you've also read this book too, Love and Respect. And they talk about that crazy cycle of like, well, I don't want to forgive her. Well, I'm not going to forgive him until she forgives me. And, you know what I mean? But it's like one of you got to break the cycle. So one of the things that I think women can do, or these women can do, is especially if you're having issues with your dad not calling you and you want to have more of a relationship with your father, I think you have to exhibit the relationship that you want, whether that's from your father, from a husband, from your mom, from whoever. If you're on another trajectory in life and you just know a little bit more, you're maybe a little bit more mature than most people, sometimes you have to be the bigger person. And so that means, like, in this instance of you wanting to have more of a relationship with your father, clearly you're a little bit more mature than he is, because you know what you need and you want to go after it, but he's just not giving it to you for whatever reason. So something that you can do is just continue to call him frequently, and talk about your day, ask him about his. And the more that he sees that he's able to open up to you, if he is scared, right, the more he might come to the point of like, I need to call my daughter. You know, I haven't called her in a while. I haven't heard her voice in a while. And then he'll start calling you at some point. I don't know how long it's going to be, and I can't guarantee that it might even happen. But it's like when you go to the gym and you start working a muscle out, right? When do you start noticing physical results? Nobody knows. It could be a month. It could be a year. It could be multiple years. But you just got to go and do it and hope and pray that, not hope and pray when you go to the gym, but like when it comes to relationships, hope and pray that the relationship that you want is something that you can go after and create, I guess, not for yourself, but through work, create for yourself, build.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that or ideas.
No, that's good. I would just add to get some therapy, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can't make the dad get the therapy, but if it's a dad watching this and he's going through that simulation, that situation, to get some therapy, get some counseling, bro. And then the same thing for the daughters. You know what I'm saying? Got to be able to process those emotions and understand that. And then if you're not plugged into a church, get plugged into a good, Bible teaching, Jesus following church. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's gonna help, man. You need community around you. It makes a lot of things a lot easier, you know what I'm saying, to deal with.
We're social animals.
Yep. So don't isolate. Don't isolate.
Yeah. So that's all the questions that I mean, that's not all the questions. There's a few more, but for now, I would say that's all the questions I have. We've been going on for almost 2.5 hours. So if you guys liked this episode and you enjoyed the questions that we had or that I asked Derry, or if you guys have any thoughts or ideas or whatever, also put them, in the comments too. Yep. Start, having conversations down there, because your thought and perspective, your weird perspective, might be able to save somebody else's life or change their perspective and create a relationship that they didn't know was possible with somebody. I don't know if you have any closing thoughts.
Man, thanks for watching this video, man. We back. We're gonna be doing things, putting out new content weekly from here on out. I also just want to share, man, if you're watching this and you are broken or you're dealing with any of this, man, Jesus loves you. I want to invite you guys, if you need a church to attend, you can come check out my church, 700 North Lockwood, Chicago, Illinois, 60644 is the address. We would love to have you. And so I hope to see you guys, man. Drop a comment below if you've been, blessed, encouraged, inspired, or even challenged by this video. That's what we look to do, man. We want to have like deep, tough conversations that we can't necessarily have in a church setting. And so, we back, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the next video.